Good evening, everyone. This is day 1273. And let me see if everything is working because sometimes things go wrong. So here we are. It looks like everything is working. Let me make sure my sound is on. Okay. All right, seems good. All right, so we're in the big leagues. I said that months ago. Months ago, we were in the big leagues because of the judges that we were communicating with. And now it's Merrick Garland of the Department of Justice, and of course, Christopher Wray of the FBI, and other attorneys. And it's really hard to believe for Team Find Richard Halliday that we've had to go to this extent in order to get answers to a question that could be handled at a local level. But because of tenure, and I think everyone understands this about Congress too, about tenure, that there needs to be a limit because you have people that come into the government and they might come in for good intentions to serve, but then they start getting used to their power, getting used to their position, and learning how to manipulate it, learning how to weaponize it, learning how to profit from it, and they forget who they're serving. And this is something that's so historical. Okay, this is nothing new. It's all through time, the same things happen. And that's why over and over again, countries have tried to reset their country by creating new forms of government to get rid of tenure, right? To get rid of the monarchies, which was tenures of families, to get rid of the corruption, the getting used to of having a power, profiting off of power, and taking advantage of the very people that you're supposed to be serving. And there is, and I meant to look it up, but I can just kind of, you know, um, talk about it uh, just from my perspective. And that is that when you are in a government position, when you are being paid by taxpayers' funds, you are held to a higher scrutiny. Okay? And let's take Donald Trump, President Trump, as an example. When he was in his private life for years and years, and I looked up his financials in 2015 when he came down that escalator and announced his presidency, and he was immediately attacked and smeared, I thought unjustly. And so I thought, okay, why are they doing that? Who is this guy? Because I didn't pay attention to him. And so I looked him up and how did I look him up? Did I read the tabloids? No. I went to his financials. I wanted to see where he placed his treasure and talents. This is something, that you can use to discern with is where do people spend their time? Where do they put their treasures? What are their treasures? And where do they use their talents? I think that that is very, very important question, and that's what I asked. And so I went to his financials because that's where his talent and treasures and time went to, not the tabloids who can, lie and smear and take something out of context. And what did I see? What did I find? An amazing, amazing bullet list. Very, very long. And I've posted it up before, and I should post it up again, of Trump's financials from 2015. Um, it was just incredible. And I thought to myself, wow, I don't see our public servants getting that much done, because the financials, what it spoke, it painted a picture of enormous economic um, help to any kind of community around the world. That means that he was absolutely creating jobs, creating wealth around the world, and also creating uh, actual places and things. He was actually doing something, making something with he was producing, right? He was producing with his wealth. And so that was really important because, at that time in 2015, before, when I was still very naive when it came to Richard's case and the military and our agencies there in El Paso, um, I just thought, wow, here he is, um, a private citizen doing more than our elected officials that spend trillions, really trillions, of our taxpayers' money. So that was my thoughts. When you go to his financials, you'll understand what I mean. It's really amazing. And so for any government official to try to stop that business, stop those jobs, stop those taxes from coming in, stop the revitalization of, let's say, um, all over the world, being in Scotland, being in South Korea when I was in South Korea. Many times I've been to South Korea. You see Trump Tower, you see the help to that economy, and of course to the American economy, specifically in Florida and in New York, and for our elected officials to try to destroy someone's business is absolutely appalling, especially since they are supposed to be held to a higher scrutiny. They cannot just have their sex cults. They cannot engage in criminal activity. They have to get their background check. It is much, much different when you are getting paid by taxpayers and you are serving in our government what you are allowed to do. Okay? You just can't just do anything that you want. And so, why am I saying this? Because so many in our government there, that when Richard was whistleblowing, Richard's case goes way before him being murdered. Richard's case, we have, this is breaking news, goes before he was murdered. And what he was doing was whistleblowing on weapons smuggling, human trafficking, and narcotics trafficking. Okay? And that's why, uh, we're working with the across the border. This is across the border, getting information from across the border, and also from the inner circle of Find Richard Halliday there at Fort Bliss and other places, and absolutely other places. And this is where we're getting our intelligence to write to Merrick Garland, to write to uh, Christopher Wray of the FBI. So the FBI and the Department of Justice, very important at this time because of the intelligence that we're getting that confirms that Richard was reporting on weapons trafficking and human and narcotics trafficking. Okay, so weapons smuggling and human and narcotics trafficking. And so he was upsetting um, those inside that have built because of their tenure on the back of the American people, being paid and getting the benefits, getting paid and getting the benefits and the perks for being a government employee, forgot who they were, forgot who they were working for, and um, they were consumed. They are consumed with their power and with the economy that they are building off of the backs of taxpayers' money. It's very easy to do a criminal cabal when you can use military vehicles, military equipment, military buildings, government equipment, uh, government intelligence, government tools. It's very easy to learn how to make money off of that. And that is why government officials have to be scrutinized all the time, and they have to be moved around. They cannot be allowed to have these long tenures over 20 years, 20 years, 30 years. Um, and this is the same thing for Washington, D.C., for our Congress. They cannot be allowed to sit there for years and years and years and develop the system to be corrupted. This is to corrupt the system to meet their needs, their personal needs, their personal financial needs, and profit off of it. And you see that with the insider trading. They get 200% return back, um, and the regular civilian is losing their shirt. It's really obvious what is going on, and so in Richard's case, uh, we have FBI supervisory special agent. I said managing director yesterday, but on his LinkedIn, he's a supervisory special agent, Jesus Eddie Nieto Jr. And he's up to no good. He's up to no good. He has been there for way over 20 years. Um, he was in the military there. He lived on Fort Bliss. His family is from there. And he got too chummy, got too used to his power. And now we have information that he even used his power in unlawful activities to engage in election interference. And that is, if you want to know how that happened and who that was, Because if he's going to do election interference with Yvonne Rosales, there's no stopping him. You know, it's not like a one-time thing, okay? It's not a one-time thing, interference, political interference, especially when they may expose you. And I think that Yvonne Rosales, a Democrat, a duly elected Democrat, a duly elected first female, and happens to be a Hispanic or Latina. So she's the, which doesn't really matter to me. She's just the DA. She's duly elected DA, and you know who she is should be judged by her character, by her ability to do her job. That's how we should judge her, and anyone else that gets that office. So now, how did Nieto um, uh, interfere with the election of the people of El Paso that voted for her? Well, he knew that there was evidence that was used against her that was manufactured, that was tampered evidence, and that was fake. That was a fraud. So tampered evidence was used against Yvonne Rosales to remove her from her office, her duly elected office, and Nieto knew that it was tampered evidence, but he did not do anything about it. He just let it. He just, he exploited his office, right? Against, you can even call it weaponizing. He weaponized his office against the very people that voted for Yvonne Rosales. And I think that is, that needs to be put out there, because the media is not really covering that. And we have, well, the media covered it, but didn't cover that it was tampered and used to remove Yvonne Rosales. So I think that is very, very important to know where that came from. And furthermore, this supervisory special agent Nieto, who, his job is to manage these other agents. So he absolutely had connections with Nadal Baim, but it went further than that. Okay, it went further than that. The conflict of interest went further than that, and Nadal Baim leaked to the Dollar General cashier that the FBI had discovered Richard's remains in Mexico, and we received from the Department of State and the Department of Homeland Security, and from Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, confirmation that the FBI were indeed looking for Richard's remains in Mexico. This is a really, really big deal, because for the FBI to just cross the border and start poking around and looking for the remains of a dead soldier, that is a very, very big deal. And we know that the state of Chihuahua allowed the tampering of Rob's, that's Richard's dad, Rob's witness statement, his statement for his missing son, that we took time out to go over there to make a statement pleading to help look for Richard, okay? And they tampered with that, because that statement would go out to the law enforcement. and they smeared Richard and lied about what Rob said in those documents. And we have been working with the Department of State um, to correct that paperwork. Okay, so this is, you know, this is a big deal that the FBI, that the supervisory special agent is a dirty agent. And of course, the FBI, because Marlon Soto Hernandez told me this himself. So he told me that he is like FBI, right? He's with the FBI. So here he is in charge of CID, and he's like, I don't answer to anybody. I don't answer to Sean Bernabe or David Stewart, right? Um, who does he answer to then? And I know about the whole chain of command, and people are going to, I understand that he does not answer to Sean Bernabe, that he answers to, at that time, he answered to Donna Martin, right? The Lieutenant General Donna Martin. But as you see in this article that I haven't posted yet, but there's an article with the former mayor that is his head into the DA's office right now as we speak about the Patrick Crucius case, and manipulating the DA office and the AUSAs, or the prosecuting attorneys, in the Patrick Crucius case. And it's like, what is this civilian? Because he's just a civilian at this point. He's no longer, he's a former mayor, but he's not, he's just a civilian right now. And what he did is manipulate the office of the DA to drop the Department of Justice's policy and do the civilians' will, which, okay, so Merrick Garland there just got snubbed. That's what that means. And that just doesn't happen. So how did this civilian, this is the point of it, is how does this civilian have so much influence of the district attorney's office? Okay, that's the question there. That the former mayor can get the attorneys that work for Merrick Garland to snub Merrick Garland. So that's the question. I know. So we have a DA office that is committing fraud. In my opinion, they're committing fraud. We have the FBI, Nieto, dirty. We have CID, Marlon Soto and Tavita Musa, dirty. We have the general, the command, dirty. And now we're working with the DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, and we know that the VA medical board is dirty. We know so many of these agencies there in El Paso on Fort Bliss are dirty, like Park University, like UTEP, like the media. They're up to no good, absolutely up to no good. And it really gives you a good picture with the El Paso chief medical examiner that's also compromised. So you have a compromise, and it gets even more. There's even more, and but it'll blow your head open. It'll blow your head open. The thoughts of it, just like, what is she talking about? But we have confirmation that there is so many conflicts of interest, and the main person is a supervisory FBI special agent, right? That's in control of cases. And John Briggs over there in control of murder cases at the district attorney's office for years and years and years, decades also, wouldn't be able to do what he does without the support of the FBI. And the same thing, reciprocal, right? Reciprocal. So there absolutely have conflicts of interest, and also with the command of Fort Bliss. And this really, who's the command? Dauber, Major General Clem Coward, Sean Bernabe. So there is a real problem in El Paso, and we're exposing the and what is their crime? Well, there's a problem there with weapons smuggling, narcotics trafficking, and human trafficking. Okay, but a big issue that no one, a crime that no one really talks about, is the identity theft, because they can get away with so much with identity theft. We have to hone in on identity theft, because if they have a criminal record, they cannot just get a loan and get a job, and things are much harder for you when you have a criminal record. And most of these people that we're talking about have a criminal record, and most of them have declared bankruptcy. And what they do, and a lot of them have multiple names, and we know for a fact that Leilani Hart has multiple names. We don't really know her real name, and she has been using other people's social security numbers. She has been stealing people's identities, because she has dozens of police reports, military police reports on military installations. She's a convicted criminal, and so in order to invest in properties, get property loans, buy vehicles, everything, if she wants a loan to do that, she has to steal somebody's identity. And this is a very problematic situation, because if they steal identity, can they swap identity? Can they get into files, and can they smear, and can they use that person's credit cards and ruin their credit rating, and create a false narrative on paper in the files, because they have been stealing identity and abusing and using other people's identity. And so it's kind of like blasphemy, right? It's kind of like a blasphemy when and not totally, I don't want anyone to misunderstand, but what they're doing is they are right now with Glendon Oakley's name, Glendon Oakley Jr., they are buying cars saying using Glendon Oakley's record and name and everything. He has an active identity, and he has been deceased since April of 2020. And so that is very problematic. And the same thing with Richard. He has an active Social Security number, and I'll tell you what happened, what really brought this up. we are looking for open records for, of course, the CID report, right? We want to know who else requested the CID report before it was released publicly. We wanted to know who did that because it was leaked. It was leaked. And we're like, okay, who would be interested in leaking that? Because, really having it out there, I don't think necessarily it's a bad thing because it is so bad, right? It's such third grade work, and it's such evidence, huge evidence of the tampering of Richard's whole investigation for the whole world to see that I don't think it's a bad thing. Anybody that has, a brain tied behind their back or whatever, one arm tied behind their back kind of brain, using half their brain, can look at that investigation that the CID just released and know that it is third grade work and that they're lying, that they are manipulating, that they're giving half of the story, that they are, not correcting the record when it needed to be corrected during the time, and leaving out so many people, so many key witnesses. It's amazing that they're leaving out so much information. I haven't read about Anthony Swafford yet, okay? I haven't read about Anthony Swafford saying that he heard all these smears from the guard mount, right? Which would be Neto, which would be Marlon Soto. That would be the suspicion of who went to the guard mount and gave a lawfare, a weaponization of the law to smear Richard. Okay. But if someone is switching out information about Richard, and then some other law enforcer is trying to read a report and reading, thinking that they're reading Richard's life story, but yet it's somebody else's. It could be Dallas Hart's life story. It could be Leilani Hart's life story. It could be James Courtney Hart life story. Because even, there's so much identity theft. It has absolutely, that's been such a surprising element in this whole investigation. And they don't talk about that in the report. The enormous amount of identity theft. And it's a huge, huge problem. And they get away with so many crimes, stealing other people's identity. And if you are in charge of very sensitive files, and if you're in charge of sensitive files in hospitals or in a morgue, in mortuary affairs, and you are their numbers and they're dead, they can't do anything about it, and you steal their identity, like Glendon Oakley Jr.'s, his family probably thinks, okay, he's gone and they've canceled out his social security number. But no, somebody is using it actively for years since he passed away. And the same thing with Richard. They're using it actively. And so this is, something that we need to look into because of 3905 Bliss Avenue, 3705 Bliss Avenue, which seems to be loans, which seems to be connected with William Beaumont Army Medical Center mortuary. They have access to these kinds of files, this kind of information. And, they can do it, they can get away with it because they have a compromised supervisory special agent at the FBI. They have, a dirty agent at the CID. And are they involved? Are they connected to Bliss Avenue? Right? We know that Mario Raskin Ortez is connected to Bliss Avenue. And, you know, when you have so many of the Walmart mass shooting on August 3rd, which is Dallas Hart's birthday, 2019 case, which I want to talk about a little bit too, um, being connected to that, and so many of them passing away. Wow. We need to look into that. That needs to be investigated, and reporters need to report on this and ask these hard questions, right? Where is the media? And it seems that the media has been tied up in knots, has been infiltrated, has been used as a hypnotizer instead of an informer and someone to oversee and ask those hard questions. Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind, because we were targeted. Our case, Richard's case, was targeted by El Paso Matters. Why? Why would they do that? And so we received the confirmation of why Richard absolutely this whole Mexico thing, and that is because Richard was reporting on the weapons smuggling and narcotics and human trafficking. And so, what is Bob, that he has to feel like he has to weaponize his own El Paso Matters against a missing soldier that was a whistleblower reporting on these major crimes? And the same thing with Angela Kachurga, who claims that she really cares about people and the border and everything. And yet, I had a long conversation with her, and she didn't care, y'all. She did not care about the people. She did not care. There's something, it was so stinky. I can't even tell you how stinky it was. And she has something else going on, and she is absolutely in a conflict of interest with this supervisory special agent Jesus Eddie Nieto that engaged in election interference and with connections to Nadal Baim and in connection with Leilani Hart. And if you're in connection with Leilani Hart, a convicted criminal with dozens of police reports, and even on our military installations, and making claims, being helped to get an FBI number, and then floating that FBI number of a notarized criminal complaint about James Courtney Hart and Dallas Hart, the family members, of raping a 7-year-old in her master bedroom, and child pornography, which is child torture, and purchasing weapons. This is in the wake. This was in the wake, 22nd of July 2020, in the wake, close wake of the August 3rd, 2019 mass shooting, where Beto O'Rourke was like, oh, we have to have weapons, stricter weapons and this and this. And Leilani Hart tells the FBI that her husband is possessing weapons illegally, and we have other corroborating paperwork that it was in New Mexico that he's buying these weapons illegally, and that he is threatening her with them, and that they're engaged in incest. And so this gets an FBI number, and then Nieto says, oh no, this is all a lie. But he doesn't arrest her. He doesn't do anything. Right? So this is not doing your supervisory special agent duties. That's for sure. There's something else going on. And just for us asking, where's our son? That we're supposed to just sacrifice our son. Don't say anything. Don't get any answers. Just walk away and believe their nonsense about what they spewed in their mischaracterization of our son, the smearing of our son. And to Anthony Swafford, who, now he has to live with, because we did a criminal complaint against him, right? Um, live with what he did. That was so wrong, just because he was reported, from the guard mount, a smear. He was hypnotized. He was taken advantage of. And you would think that he would join Team Find Richard Halliday, and that he would tell us who was on that guard mount, but maybe Chris will get him to say who is on that guard mount, right? Because that's where we're at right now. Is who was it Neto? Was it Marlon Soto? Who stood on that guard mount, spewing wrong information to the military police on Fort Bliss about Richard, smearing Richard's character, which, why would you even do that when a soldier is missing? Your updates from a guard mount should be helpful to find the soldier. You find them first, and then you figure out what's going on. And what they would have found out is that Richard was murdered because he was reporting on the weapon smuggling, those tactical move storage units that you can fill up with all those military weapons that you didn't buy, the American taxpayer bought, and all kinds of parts and everything, and then just take them over the border and sell them and pocket the money. Fill it up with narcotics, bring it back over, or even humans, and so it is really terrible. And Richard told me that. He said, "Mom, it's just so bad. It's just so bad. I just can't even talk about. I'll talk about anything, but I can't talk about the military. It's so bad, and I don't want to stay in. I just want to get out." So, that has always ringed clear. And Richard, being promoted twice since after he was murdered, needs to be out there too, because the smearers are still smearing. Okay? They're still trying to use even the CID. They're weaponizing the CID report against Richard, right? Against Richard. That's the only one they can be against. And why? They want to stop people from finding out what he was reporting and who on. And it's big. It's very big. And of course, Fort Bliss being right there in El Paso, in a border city, right there by Juarez, Mexico, in Chihuahua, in the state of Chihuahua, Mexico, and a government that's corrupt, a state government that's corrupt, that would tamper with and take advantage of the father of an American looking for his soldier son, whatever the case is, right? But to add information on there to smear Richard, to get anybody that was in the Mexican law enforcement agencies to think badly of Richard and not care that he was dead. And this is a huge, huge mistake, which is also tampering with the identity of a person. By attacking their character, you're absolutely tampering with the identity. And so we have to be really, really careful on what we report on. And so we have been working over 3 years trying to let everyone know what the truth is. And I'm going to tell you, it's worse than what we say, okay? And Nieto is up to no good, and Marlon Soto's up to no good, and Tavita Nusa lost his badge. He was up to no good. And Leilani Hart is a convicted criminal and the mother of Richard's platoon leader, Dallas Hart. And why haven't they been able to produce a platoon leader? And then they say, oh, he's deployed. Uh, why haven't they been able to produce a official, accurate proof, right? Um, the whole thing stinks to high heaven. For over 3 years, they've had plenty of time, and Rich, Richard's platoon leader was Dallas Hart, okay, and he was taking flying lessons from Deborah Sarah West, okay. That is just um, so they went to put out lies, and that seems to be their standard operating procedure. But we have stood up against their lies to debunk them and to expose the lies. And what we've done is expose a lot of crime, and they use false identities to do so much crime with, y'all, because they're not afraid. They've got the law enforcement. They are the law enforcement, and they have forgotten who they are. And they have taken on false identities to do criminal activities. And this is why they've been able to hide Richard's remains and manipulate the system, so that we have had to work really, really hard for over 3 years to get answers to something very simple. Where's Richard? It would be very, very simple if you didn't have corrupt leaders in these agencies, okay? They're absolutely compromised and corrupt, and this is why we're in this situation. So let's talk about Patrick Crusius for a minute, because tomorrow is supposed to be that reindictment hearing of Patrick Crusius. Now, Patrick Crusius, and let me get my notes up because I think it's very, very important to get this right. From the yeah, here it is. Let's see. I have so many notes here. I'm going to have to do it let's see. Okay. So yes, the federal judge that presided over the Patrick Crusius case, we gave a number to that. Let's see, yes, here it is. EP 20-CR-00389- DCG-1, because the judge in the case, the federal case, okay, there's two jurisdictions, right? There's the federal jurisdiction, and then there's the state of Texas jurisdiction. And in the state of Texas jurisdiction, it's Judge Madrano. In the federal case, and I hope I say his name right, it's Judge Guadarrama, Guadarrama. And I'm just butchering that name. I know I am. Guatemala, I think. Anyway, but that case, the federal case, is already over. Okay, that's a done deal. The sentencing was on July 7th of 2023, and Pat was sentenced to 90 consecutive life sentences. So that's, 8,000 years, right? Roundabout, okay, 8,000 years. And the judge recommended the United States prison in Florence. So this is in Florence, Colorado. and it's an AP Max. An AP Max. It is the number one ultra high security prison in the United States. It's called the Alcatraz of the Rockies. The Alcatraz of the Rockies. And it is designed for the most dangerous offenders. That is his sentence. That's a done deal. And what Bill Hicks has done with his messy, messy business is, uh, he's what he's going to do is he's going to cause a problem even in the federal case, right? That's what's going to happen. Maybe that's what he wants. I don't know. Because everything he's doing is to sabotage the Patrick Crucius case. Everything that I'm reading, even me, I'm not even a lawyer, but it is so stinky. And what this judge, okay, what the federal judge, okay, so he has 90 life sentences consecutively, thousands of years. He's not going to live that long, and he's going to go to the Alcatraz of the Rockies, okay? Now, everybody was disappointed that he didn't get the death penalty. Well, when you look at and I'm look, I think the death penalty needs to be on the table. It needs to be on the table for Richard's case. So I absolutely understand these victims' families' situation and how they feel. Absolutely, because in Richard's case, that lethal injection needs to be on the table for what has been done to Richard, and in Richard's case, this whole cover up. It is absolutely wicked, wicked. So I understand how they feel. So, but you're not allowed to get too emotional. You're not allowed to cry. Because our agencies are not working the way they're supposed to be working. How we're paying them to work, they are not working that way. And so we have to stay calm and focused in order to learn the law ourselves and demand, by applying the law, um, demand that they do their job. And so to read through a legal document, you can read through it. EP20-CR-00389-DCG-1. And what that tells you is something so shocking. So the federal judge recommends and acknowledges that Crucius, who has autism, should receive treatment and counseling for his what? Severe mental health condition. Okay? This is huge. Severe mental health condition. The media, I haven't read that in the media. Okay? I haven't read when I saw some of the videos of him in court, and and he even shook his head when they said, "Are you a white supremacist?" He was shaking his head, no, and he's like, there's no body language of someone that is a mass killer, okay? There's just no body and I'm not saying he's innocent. I'm saying he has severe mental health problems, right? To be that calm, to not have any kind of his face to contort in any kind of way or whatever at the I hate you, I want you to go to hell, and everything from the victims' families, and being accused of all this stuff, and not having any kind of facial expression that would indicate that he realizes what just happened, is so indicative of someone that is outside of reality, which is autism. And, it's probably some other psychological, but, I just knew from being a teacher, that there was something wrong. And it seemed, because I worked with autistic individuals, uh, you know, and for him to walk up to strangers and just say, "Yeah, here I am. I'm the one that shot everyone." That was really strange too, because we confirmed that he has autism, and now the judge is saying it's severe. It's not like lightly on the spectrum, it's severe, a severe mental health condition. So much so that someone that's going to an an ADX, uh, an Alcatraz of the Rockies, is supposed to get some mental health counseling and treatment. I mean, that is like that. That's so revealing of what's going on. And in light of that, right? Um, Bill Hicks wants the death penalty, and then he's sabotaging it. Why? They want him dead, or what is he doing? Because he is. I use the word segregate, and I got some negative comments on that, but he's separating, and the word segregate means to separate, right? That's all it means. It's used for racist people, but that's not the meaning of the word. Segregate is to separate, and to separate the living from the deceased victims is a travesty of justice, and it is a circus. It really is a circus, because it really puts the living victims at risk. So there's no, and this whole prolonged is putting the living victims at risk. And then to absolutely omit and disregard Memo Garcia, who died 9 months later, and the witness statements that the hospital caregivers could give, is also a travesty of justice. And so I would say that DA Hicks, in my opinion, he is really on the cusp, if not doing it already, committing fraud. And I think he could lose his license um, because of the manipulation, the planning of this, the damage he's doing to the living survivors, and because Crucius, now in these cases, they're going to come out and they're going to say he has severe mental health issues, right? I just, how is he going to get the death penalty with that? I just, and then the testimony of Glendon Oakley has to come out too, with all of the other witnesses about the multiple shooters, right? Uh, you know, and that's why they're delaying until they can get just the right moment where no one's paying attention anymore, and they can put this through without focusing on the testimonies for multiple shooters. What really happened on August 3rd, 2019? They're not telling us. They're trying to feed us a false narrative, just like with Richard. And I just don't see how someone that is autistic can do and severe autism could pull this off by himself. Okay? I just don't see it. There's a lot of questions here. And badly done. Badly done. And it's being badly done by DA Bill Hicks and by John Briggs. Okay? By John Briggs, because John Briggs has been there. He's been there a long time. A long time under Jaime Esparza, under Yvonne Rosales, until she fired him, and then 2 days later they started attacking her, and FBI agent Nieto allowed false evidence to be used, tampered with evidence to be used to get rid of her. And so, is he colluding with the DA office? Is he colluding with Bob Moore of El Paso Matters? Because Bob Moore of El Paso Matters is the one that ran the petition to get rid of uh, Yvonne Rosales. So there's so many questions here, and there's so much dirty play all over the place. And I just have to report this to the El Pasoans because our sons and daughters, our volunteer sons and daughters, but our sons and daughters, and our lives, and our tax money, our futures are really at stake and at risk and have been um, harmed because of the very people that we pay to be in these roles. And there's more from these very, the medical examiner alone gets like almost $500,000 for his job. And I hope that his involvement in all of this is not about tampering with deceased people and their information, right? And cases to give a false report how people causes of death, things like that. I mean, for him to not be an American citizen, for him to have the connections that he does, it's very, very concerning. It really is. And for identity theft to be so now, there is a lot of questions there. So that is so we have the proof. It's kind of like this Hunter Biden case. You have the proof, but where is the political will, right? Where is the political will to get justice? And so that is what we're working on, is to get the politics to and that's where we need you. We need you to share. We need you to look through all of what we're saying, look through everything what they're saying. We're confident that you will understand that they absolutely have smeared Richard and dealt with him very unfairly from the very beginning. And we are very confident that when and that's why we haven't complained too much about this violation of privacy, about procedure. Matter of fact, we're asking for all of Leilani Hart's, um, because, she's all out in the public too, so by the standard of the open records um, director or whatever her title is, she should apply that to Leilani Hart's dozens of police reports and put them, post them up in the reading room so that we can all see what she's been up to also. So you know, I think that that's a good request. And so we requested that. Um, there's even evidence, well, we'll wait for the answer because evidence is coming out everywhere. The more that the open records are being um, answered, the more that we're getting evidence. And so I can see why they just didn't want to answer us, because their work is like third grade work, first grade work, that they make so many mistakes, and they can't really cover up their lies. They really can't. It's just very, very obvious. So, but there's no doubt in our mind at this point, with the Department of Homeland Security, with the FBI, with the VA, with the chief medical examiner, with the CID, with the command, um, with the El Paso Police Department, also the military police and the guard mount. Um, and there's just more and more all the time that there seems to be, might be a small, medium sized group, but they have the positions, they sit in the right chairs, and they can do a lot of damage. they can do a lot of damage. And so we need to expose them. And there's no doubt in our mind that that's what Richard was trying to do. We have confirmation on it now. Whistleblowing on weapons smuggling and human and narcotics trafficking. So that's very, very important. Um, Thank you so much. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing. And thank you, Anicia, for coming on. And please share.